Number 3, airway protection. So often this is the most important and very neglected indication as well, that is airway protection. Because whenever the patient is not able to protect their own airways, for example, if they have a very low GCS, typically if they have less than 8, which forms the definition of coma as well. So in these patients who cannot protect their own airways, there is a lot of chances that they can aspirate and the lung may be damaged and they may die because of that. What are the indications and contraindications? First thing, I'm going to discuss on the indications of endotracheal intubations. Indications wise, the first indication, there are 3 classic indications. In that, the first indication will be respiratory failure. We have a separate section of video on respiratory failure where it is defined as the PaO2 less than 60 millimeters of mercury. Go back to the respiratory failure section and learn if you have not already learned. Second, if the patient is having inadequate oxygenation or ventilation. So in respiratory failure and inadequate oxygenation or ventilation, you can try other ventilation techniques or oxygenation techniques. If they fail, definitely endotracheal intubation is an option. Number 3, airway protection. So often this is the most important and very neglected indication as well, that is airway protection. Because whenever the patient is not able to protect their own airways, for example, if they have a very low GCS, typically if they have less than 8, which forms the definition of coma as well. So in these patients who cannot protect their own airways, there is a lot of chances that they can aspirate and the lung may be damaged and they may die because of that. So ETT, yes, can give a good airway protection, especially when you are going to use a cuffed endotracheal tube. So when you inflate the cuff, they does provide a good airway protection and prevent aspiration to a great extent, at least in the acute stages. But if you use ETT for a long time, the cuff may form wrinkles and they are still prone for microaspiration. That is a different topic, but still they does provide a good airway protection, at least for the short run. So airway protection, very, very important. This is also one of the main reasons why during your surgeries, when you are giving general anesthesia, you are going to do a endotracheal intubation just to protect their airways. That is the main reason. All right. So these 3 are the principal and important indications for endotracheal intubation. But there are some rarer indications for endotracheal intubation also. So what are the rare indications? If the patient is having a raised intracranial pressure, raised ICP. Raised ICP becomes a indication for endotracheal intubation for 2 reasons. One, they might be having a low GCS. That itself is an indication. So that's not the main thing here we are talking about, but in concern with the current topic. So what is more important is, whenever you have a raised ICP, you can do something called a therapeutic hyperventilation. Therapeutic hyperventilation. This is a very important concept because you know how hyperventilation is going to help these patients, because hyperventilation will wash out the carbon dioxide from the body and they will have a low PaCO2. This low PaCO2 definitely will reduce the cerebral blood flow, and reduction in the cerebral blood flow definitely will result in fall of the intracranial pressure. So this is how it works. But how much you are going to reduce the CO2 is the question. Remember, the normal PaCO2 is somewhere in the range of 36 to 44 millimeters of mercury. We know that. But in therapeutic hyperventilation, you have to keep the CO2 just in the range of 30 to 35 millimeters of mercury. This is the target PaCO2 when you are doing a therapeutic hyperventilation. This is again very important. You just keep it in the mild hypocapnic range. If you reduce to less than 30 millimeters of mercury, again, lot of trials have proven that is going to cause increased mortality. A lot of explanations are there for that, but still none of them are conclusive. But trials, every single one has proven that if you reduce the PaCO2 to a much lesser value, means you're going to result in high mortality. So don't do that. So this is going to be the target, and this can work only for a short time, and still you have to address the cause of raised ICP and you have to eliminate them. So then only the patient will be improving much better way. Okay. So this is the first rare indication for endotracheal intubation, that is raised ICP. The second rare indication is when the patient is having a lot of copious secretion in the respiratory tract or a lot of blood that is bleeding in the respiratory tract. So, and you can't remove them, and the patient can't remove them by cuffing, and you have a lot of problems in removing them, yes, endotracheal intubation does facilitate the removal of this secretions and blood from the respiratory tract. So these are some of the indications for endotracheal intubation. So let us move on to the contraindications. What are the contraindications? There are not any absolute contraindication for endotracheal intubation. You have to note that every single contraindication is relative only in its own sense. So the first contraindication I'd like to tell is if you have a significant upper airway pathology. Remember, endotracheal tube is something that passes through the upper airways and enters into the glottis and into the lower airways. So if you have a significant upper airway pathology like severe laryngeal edema, you have a severe epiglottitis, some severe injury to the oral cavity like road traffic accidents, the face is malformed. So this becomes relative indications. Yes, it becomes really difficult to pass the endotracheal tube into the glottis. So number 2, if you are anticipating a difficult intubation, anticipating a difficult airway or a difficult intubation, you know that the things are going to be difficult and you can't see the insertion of the ETT into the glottis properly. So once again, it's a relative contraindication. In the anticipated difficult airway or difficult intubation, you can probably try other techniques like awake intubation or fiber optic bronchoscope mediated intubation. So you can try other techniques, but still you have a relative contraindication there. So apart from that, I don't think there are much contraindications for endotracheal intubation as such.
Subscribe and press the bell icon so you never miss an update from PrepLadder.